say one thing, this topic of where you can find information has come up a couple of times. And there's a lot of different groups who pull together lots of data. And I'm lucky enough that I just got an intern and an assistant who are just trying to compile all that information and put it all in one place so that anybody can take it and use it. So it's not just going to be our reports, it'll be reports that all the different groups have written. Some of the research that's just been floating around as briefing notes amongst different groups for various different allies. So just to try to avoid reinventing the wheel and doing the same research over and over again, we're going to try to just get it out there, and we're going to make it a place where you can actually comment. So if you've got feedback or further questions, we'll be able to try to facilitate that conversation there. So I'll definitely let folks know we've got all your email addresses so that you know when we've got that up. But it definitely is important that we all have access to all the information. So.
What is the website again?
Well, right now it's wildernesscommunity.org/tankers, and there's some information there now, but there'll be a lot more in the weeks to come. And there's tons of good information on the Dogwood site. And of course, Kennedy's done the most specific work to this area.
For the local information, the SCEC website is going to have, we're going to take the questions that we've got from today's session and the previous session and try to put them together in a package that we can have on the website.
On this question of research and what we know, and following Alan's comment about needing to know more about the nature of bitumen, the risks that it brings, I'd like to ask the panelists their views on, we've talked a lot about tankers and twinning, but what about the situation right now where they started to transport it without any consultation, no consultation with property owners, with First Nations, nothing. And, as several of us have pointed out, this stuff is different. They can call it oil, but yes, it may be oil, but it's got some additional components to it to make it very dangerous. What are your views on whether we can actually come up with some sort of a challenge to what they've done already? A legal challenge or a political challenge?
They did have a process the end of 2010, Kinder Morgan applied for something which is called a firm service application, and that was changing the proportion of what was sold at the docks. And I would say that was probably the first time Kinder Morgan actually gone in front of the National Report for anything substantive since the, say, 2007. But buried in that are these kind of details, and of course why it's so important to participate is because if we had participated in that process, we could have asked, right? And then that's the important thing about even this early stage about the commercial tolling application. This change, it seems like, well, who cares how much they charge per barrel? But in those processes, you can ask specifics about how much insurance do you have for this pipeline?
Oh, yeah,
right?
question.
How much do you have? And maybe you should be charging a higher rate because maybe you don't have enough insurance, or what's the nature of the product that's going to, and I don't know whether the National Energy Board will rule that in or out of order, but you've got a chance to ask, and then the questions are out there. So that's why I really think it's important to say, okay, maybe this stuff will get waved right through, but at least we got the questions on record, and that's again what I've tried to do in Parliament, I've tried to do in the committee work, is to say, well, I'm going to get these big companies, I'm going to ask the questions, and get this on, and bring in some experts. So through the course of the work in Parliament, I had the foremost expert on pipelines come in, and he said, oh yeah, send me an email anytime, I'll tell you exactly. He has pictures of every single pipeline rupture in Canada that's ever happened. And he knows exactly, this is the guy, he doesn't care. Like he's a scientist, he says, he doesn't judge, he just says, I can tell you the truth of what bitumen does to pipelines. Here's 50 examples of how it's more corrosive than the other stuff. So there is a lot I have access to these resources. Library of Parliament, I can ask for studies anytime I want. So, but I need to know what's driving people, and then I can use. So, there's a number of organizations that do have access to resources, so you don't have to be just Googling, and trying to work through it yourself. So I would say, again, call my office. I'm happy to help, and if I can find it help somewhere.